somebody asked me, did I know when I finished The Pillars of the Earth that I was going to write a sequel? And the answer is hell no. Because I think if you had told me then that I had to write a sequel, I would have jumped in the River Thames. When I finished The Pillars of the Earth, I felt drained and fatigued, and it's the only time in my career that I've ever had this feeling. But writing The Pillars of the Earth exhausted me in a peculiar kind of way. I spent 3 years and 3 months writing that book. And in fact, for the last year, I was working 6 days a week, and in the end, 7 days a week on the book. Because I was afraid that if I didn't, I would be writing it for the rest of my life. There was a good side, actually, to the experience of writing 7 days a week, because I didn't have that problem of having to crank up on Monday morning. I just went straight through. It was a long time before I was ready to contemplate writing another book as long as The Pillars of the Earth. But it's like running a marathon. Not that I've ever run a marathon, but I have friends who run a marathon. And what they say is that after a while you forget the pain of running a marathon and you want to do it again. And my mother used to say something very similar about having babies. She used to say that if you remember the pain, you'd never do it twice. Pillars of the Earth is very long, 375,000 words, and the difficulty is very simple. It's the difficulty of making up more and more stuff about the same group of people. With an ordinary novel, you write 500 pages and it's finished. And you can start a new book with a new set of characters and new problems and a new situation. But if you've determined to write a long book, you write 500 pages and you're not even halfway through. You've got to write another 500 pages, all about the same people, and then you've got to write another 500. So it taxes the writer's imagination much more. The upside of that, of course, is that when we're reading a long book, if it's good, it gives us a much more profound satisfaction than a short book. Of course, if we're reading a long book and it's a bad book, then it's really terrible because we keep looking to see how many more pages we've got to read before we can finish and get on to something very interesting. But if it's good, we want it to go on and on. If the author succeeds in drawing us into that imaginary world, we don't want to leave it. A book of normal length, like a thriller, my thrillers, is like a snapshot of the characters in the middle of their lives, usually at a time of great crisis in their lives. But a long book like The Pillars of the Earth tells you the whole life story of the major characters. It tells you their entire biography. In The Pillars of the Earth and in World Without End, at the beginning of the story, the characters are young people or children. And we see them grow old or grow older and get married and have children of their own. And we see them at the end of the book, then mature or old people, or we may see them through to their deaths. So one of the things that people liked about The Pillars of the Earth was that it was a long book, and it gave that kind of satisfaction that long books can give you. So I got to the stage where I could contemplate writing a sequel. Now, the movies have given sequels a bad name. Where are we with Rocky? Is Rocky 6 or Rocky 7? And there are a lot of bad sequels, so I was nervous for that reason. I didn't want to write an exploitative book that would just make a quick buck and disappoint people. I was very worried about disappointing people with the sequel to The Pillars of the Earth because I knew how much readers loved that book, and it was very important to me. It was the book of all my books, that was the one that everybody liked best. And I didn't want to kind of dilute that by writing a bad sequel, but there are lots of good books have sequels. Mark Twain wrote Tom Sawyer Abroad. Don Quixote had a sequel. They're usually both published as one book now, but Don Quixote was a bestseller, an international, probably the first ever international bestseller, wasn't it, Don Quixote? It was published all over Europe at the beginning of the 17th century and was very popular. That had a sequel. Robinson Crusoe, one of the first novels in English, had a sequel, The Further Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. Most sequels aren't planned, and World Without End, as I said at the beginning, was not planned. I did not know when I was writing The Pillars of the Earth that there would be a sequel. If I had known that there would have been one or two tidying up things that I would have done. I announced on my website when I was writing World Without End that the characters were descended from the characters in The Pillars of the Earth, and that some of them were descended from Tom Builder. And a perceptive reader sent me an email saying, I wonder how it's possible that you can have characters descended from Tom Builder. And she pointed out that none of Tom Builder's 3 children had children themselves in the course of The Pillars of the Earth. So I hadn't realised this. But I was already, I had already written half of World Without End. And so I had a problem. So what I have said now on my website is that in The Pillars of the Earth, I forgot to mention that Tom's daughter Martha did eventually marry and have children. And it is those children from whom characters in World Without End are descended. I couldn't set the sequel immediately after The Pillars of the Earth. A sequel is usually another story about the same people, but of course at the end of The Pillars of the Earth, all the main characters are either very old or dead, so there couldn't be another story about them. The other problem I had was that I couldn't write another story about building a cathedral, because that would have been the same book, really. So I needed a theme. I decided I would write another book about Kingsbridge, because I felt that was one of the things that readers wanted. They wanted to go back to that town. And I felt they wanted another long book set in that town, set in the Middle Ages. But it needed a theme, and it couldn't be about building a cathedral. And this was a problem for me for many years. I thought about what the theme would be. I didn't want it to be something ordinary. I didn't want this to be just a novel about people getting married and falling in love and making money and going to war. It would be about all of those things, but I wanted it to be about something more. And so finally I came across the theme of the Black Death, which was a terrible plague that afflicted Europe in the 14th century and killed at least a third of Europeans, in maybe half, some people say half. So a tremendous drama. You have